This is a quick video on the being attractive. Yeah, you get treated differently because I'm running out of battery power, so I'll try and make it as quick as I can. Because obviously you're not fitting into what people conceive as being attractive and not being popular and stuff. It's one of the things that got me into like comics and that side of things, because it was, for me, it was a form of escapism in terms of when the world doesn't accept you, comics kind of did. So, for example, with comic characters like Spider-Man and obviously Superman, it was more about for me, what I was drawn to them is that it was like their alter ego. So you had with Spider-Man, you had the Peter Parker persona, where obviously he's just like that's a typical student which nobody took notice of. Obviously Mary Jane did eventually, but obviously the character always found it difficult in expressing his feelings for Mary Jane because he obviously wasn't popular. But then you get the Spider-Man persona, which everybody sits there and then everybody loves and adores and then was a fan of. So I understood that. Similar thing with Superman, where you had the Clark Kent, the mild-mannered reporter. Well, there's been different incarnations of how they portray the Clark Kent character, but the typical Clark Kent character is typically unassuming, and it's the Superman character, the Superman persona, that everybody loves and then is in all admiration for. And it was kind of with me, with my, where kind of wanting that sense of duality, where you wanting to have that kind of dual personality, where you've got the side where I am, where you obviously don't fit in, and obviously you're trying to conform to the rules and being this nice guy, but then nobody kind of noticing. But then it's that wanting to have that other identity where you were popular and people did sit there and took notice of it and people did like. So that's why I really liked comics and got into the world of comics, and still am a big fan of comics. Similar thing with music, where back in the late 80s you had the troubled R&B singer Bobby Brown, and then obviously we know that later in life that we know the stuff that he was getting into with drugs and stuff like that. But being a young black guy, boy or man, back in the late 80s, there wasn't, not necessarily, I want to use the terms of role model, but there wasn't kind of that kind of exciting, kind of bubbly, kind of somebody like who you could relate to, who of a person of your skin color that you could kind of relate to. And then obviously seeing him, and then back in the day, in the late 80s and the early 90s, with his persona, where it was just totally electrifying. It's like the world was his oyster. The world, everybody loved him. Every performance, like he was popular. All the fangirls would swoon over him. Everybody wanted to, and this is where everybody wanted to be him. And for me, that's kind of the reason why I kind of, minus obviously the drug problems that he had, but there was a part of me that kind of wanted to be like that, where have that kind of fame, to be noticed, to have that as well, that fame, and to people to kind of notice you for, you have your 15 minutes of fame because you're popular, because of who and what you are. And the way he was as a performer, he was just totally electrifying, and then he also winning awards and having hits and hits upon hits upon hits. And then you're just taking the world by storm. And then when you've got like a personality, obviously like the way I am, and still the way I am, where you're not kind of popular, whether it's because the way you look and money and etc, etc, it's just having that sense of having that dual, that other identity, where that people for once will notice you. But unfortunately, obviously, being a big boy now, you know that you can't ever be like that. But again, that's what got me into the comics, because it was that sense of escapism in comics, and the imagining yourself as being a superhero. And then if, for example, whether it's, as I said before, with music, kind of imagining yourself in that person's shoes, or being that person, and then being popular and being kind of adored when normally you kind of not, or the world kind of shuns you. that's what kind of really got me into the world of like comics, and even reading books and creativity in general, or even drawing, or even like even in sci-fi, where you watch like different sci-fi shows, where obviously you had shows like Sliders with parallel worlds, and worlds where you become big or famous, or you're rich, or where your life kind of isn't kind of like that. You have shows like Star Trek, where you see characters that you can relate to, whether they're are people of kind of colour, whereas before, not growing up and kind of having that, or dealing with certain issues, which kind of make social issues are kind of going now, even if the so-called sci-fi shows are set in a far future where everything's kind of a lot better. But that's kind of the reason why I found that sense of escapism, being able to get into things like that. But as I said before, I mean, I doubt it's going to change, because that's how the world is. You're just based on the way you look and in terms of the way you have. So yeah, that's my kind of video over.